Hey, today we're going to learn how to use the table in Excel. Table is very interesting. You may treat this kind of data as a table. I wouldn't call it a table. It's a data in a table format, but actually table is an object that can be called out over and over through the Excel whole session. Table is an object compared with the normal table. If I hover over here, say create table to organize and analyze related data. Table is special object in Excel that can be used to contain your data and also summarize that. And it can be used in other analysis practice later on, for example, pivot table. And also, if you want that included in a formula, will be very easy to do. So today we're going to learn how to do that more efficiently. So first, I can dump data into the Excel like this format, just open from a CSV. And if you want to have that table enabled, you can either insert a table, going here, or going to the Home tab. There's a format as a table, it's the same thing, or you can go into any place in the range of the data, just select one cell individually. You can hold your control on your keyboard and plus T, it will convert that into table. Let's do the most traditional way, which is insert and table. So in this way, I feel like I can easily present the ideas behind the scene. So let's just click this one. Then it will tell you that your data boundary from A1 to V772 and your table has a header. We can confirm our first row is header, so we make this ticked, and since it's okay, we just click OK. Now you can see there's a new thing come up. First is the color, and also you can tell that it looks like have defined boundary of my data and also include some borders over here. And the most significant difference is definitely the color. But the color is just a format like many other things in the Excel. There's a contextual toolbar in the green color come up over the top. If you click that one, jump to menu, only appear when your cursor is within this data range. For example, if I place my cursor over here, you can still see this table design contextual toolbar. But if you click out, it's gone. So based on your selection, current status of your cursor, this will display or not, depending on your selection. Just remember that. Sometimes if you don't see that setting, is because your cursor is not placed in a place that has that kind of signature. Now we're in this 4 cell. Since it's within the table range, that's why this ribbon come up. We click that. You can have a different style to go with. If I make it more subtle, like any other normal table, you can just choose this none. And then there's no difference between now and then. And you can see there's always a filter over the top. And if I try to defilter that, see if we can do that. I just click the filter again. If you scroll down, you can see those header always over the top. Even I didn't freeze a pen. So that's a indication about the table rather than a normal one. Then you can always go into the top. Let's just enable that filter first so we can see how I can navigate my data through rows and also columns. And I can have everything in one place and always see the title. Very, very good. Another significant difference is that if you go into table design, you have other options to quickly summarize your things. So by default, there's a filter button be enabled. We just enable that. And also header row, turn on and off on that. And also by default, they ban rows since we change a different quick style with this non theme. That's why this one is not applicable. But if we choose another one with the ban, you can tick or untick this to make sure your data is visible for everyone for the consecutive rows. And last, you can also include a calculate row in your data total. In that way, the far right-hand side data will be summarized. But now there's no number data in this. That's why this kind of thing will be more like a count. You can also see you have statistic row over each of the column. You can do a summarization. For example, I want to do, for example, this one. Let me have a see. Okay, I want to do a summarization, for example, on the total cost. I can just select this cell and choose this drop down to sum. Now you have this one. If I just look at canceled, show different one. That's because this is the subtotal. There's a lot you can do. Subtotal is the default one to summarize this data because you're choosing different status. It will dynamically sum the data enabled. That's why it's always changing based on the filters you put it on. But just be sure you're aware of that. Another thing I want to talk about is that you can call it out anytime about any column inside that table. For example, now if I select this one, this contextual toolbar came up again. We're going to here. We have a property section. Property is telling you the status of the table. For example, the name of the table is table 1 and what kind of size is spanned from A to B. We're going to change that to a raw. We just call it a raw. In that way, I can always remember that since I named that. So I can always say raw. Once I finish my typing, you can see there's a little table icon come up with this highlighted in blue and means this object being recognized by Excel system. Then I can use a square bracket to actually access the information inside that table. That's why I'm saying raw becoming an object in Excel's memory and is in a structured way by columns, by different dimensions. And if I will try to access, for example, status, I bracket it back, I can get all the status, but this status is duplicated every time. If I want to get it distinct, I can just use unique. Use array formula to open that and close that. Sorry, I put the closing bracket in the wrong place. We close that. We have this. And if you say this is not in the alphabetical order, we can just wrap it around with another array formula and and we just close it. Now we have this kind of things out from this table. If I read this formula, it will be very easy to understand that because it's from a raw table and that column is called status. And I'm unique that and also sort that. So it's pretty clear when you write a formula against a table because everything has been properly structured and saved in the memory. Every time when you change something into a table, make sure you rename that as a name that you can remember and always reference to. Instead of that generic table name, table 1, table 2, you better have it name in a way that you can use later on. Another thing I want to talk about table is that when you insert a pivot table, your pivot table will also reference that range. Much easier to understand, much easier to reference. And also due to the special characters of a table in Excel, you can actually include visual slicer, which is a filter type, to help the user better slice the data. If we select anywhere in the cell and go into this contextual toolbar table design, under these tools, we have insert slicer. If we click this button, this is all the column that we have our table. And each of column can be introduced as an individual slicer to help us filter data. They will work together to help you find the right amount of information. For example, if I want to introduce a status, and also I want to include country, if I click OK. Now you have filter type object enabled in Excel for you to filter out the data. I want to choose everything disputed in Denmark. That's the two order that I have. I can also defilter that to look at in progress what is the USA. So this filter will really speed up the process for you to quickly scan through the data, find out the anomalies, and pick some outliers. If you're just interested in a specific group or country, this one will much easier to use other than using the top header using this kind of filter. The only downside of this, there's no way you can search your filter because over this bar, you can actually put a search whatever terminology you try to use. Here, you don't have that chance. It's always in alphabetic order, but you do have a little bit customization over the top. Say you want to have this kind of 2 columns, what kind of width and height. And also you have other style to toggle on and off. And the last one is that, for example, if we remove this data, let's just say you have a new bunch of rows coming up. All you need to do is just paste at the bottom and the data range will be automatically expanded based on in conjunction cell. If you have any data in this cell, for example, small, if you type that, this new row gonna be created and your table will dynamically expand its range from 779 to 780. So that's the feasibility of table. It's very easy to maintain. If you want this table going right-hand side, you have a dealer size and also dealer level. Just type here, it will expand that. You have a total cost column already, but now you want to include a total RP instead of a unit RP. You can insert a column. We just rename that as total. The total sales equal to unit RP times the quantity ordered. Yes. Okay. Now let's just get back. Before hit enter, you can read this formula. This formula is pretty easy to understand because first, we have proper table name. Second, we have a proper header. This is say you are using this kind of information times this kind of information. And if you have a proper name for a column, this one is just readable. Unit price times the quantity order equal to the total sale. Table will facilitate your process because it's referencing the name of the column, which make the things much easier for your stakeholder. Now I finished the entering. If I click OK, the last feature of table is that it's going to automatically fill all the thing for the rest. If you have just one cell field, everything will carry the same formula. So you don't need to flash through. Table will automatically fill from row 1 to the row bottom. Today we have talked about how to use a table properly in Excel. Table is a very powerful feature in Excel. You should keep using that because it's helping you to structure data in a way that the system can understand. No matter you want to call it out later on or going to use that in the pivot table in the future, it will always in the place for you to use. And with its simple and easy use slicer function, you can have that as a good tool add to your dashboard to include the granularity of your data, but also helps user to interact with the table with different slices. And the out expand feature will also help you to build up a continuing workflow in your daily work, which will smooth out all the hassles that you're going to encounter in the traditional table format. That's all the benefits that I can conclude from a table in Excel, and hope you guys enjoy it. See you guys in the next one.